we're doing 3 series at once because I'm an insane person, right? We're talking about Monopolies, but we're also talking about the Heritage Foundation over on Patreon, and we're talking about the Spanish Civil War. Why? Because I want to talk about wealth and income disparity and inequality and what happens next. My name's Amy. You can follow me on YouTube, Substack, Patreon. I also host a podcast called The Foolish Optimist. But let's get into private equity and how they skirt the Sherman antitrust laws, because it's not really them doing it, right? It comes out of a book called The Paradox of Antitrust, written by Robert Bork. And Robert Bork is a heritage darling. He also wrote another book called Slouching into Gomorrah about all of the movements in the 60s and how the big L liberal ideals were sending us straight to Gomorrah, of Sodom and Gomorrah. But this antitrust book, the Paradox of Antitrust book, is going to be referenced in 7 Supreme Court cases at least between 1977 and 2007. It's going to be referenced hundreds of times across other courts, and it will erode consumer protections. It will erode the Sherman Antitrust Act, right? And one of the ways that private equity gets to take advantage of this 40-ish years almost at this point of judicial decisions that allow corporations to consolidate and to merge and to create systems that hurt consumers is the vertical integration, right? Sherman Antitrust Act is going to protect against horizontal monopolies. Okay, what does that mean? That means I own an oil company, you own an oil company, we're going to merge. But if we merge, we hit that monopoly threshold and we get flagged. And the merger isn't allowed to go through because that's just too much market share. It's not fair. It's hurting consumers. It's hurting competition. It's hurting innovation. Okay, after some of these Supreme Court cases, though, I get a little idea in my head to go vertically, meaning I have an oil company, so I'm going to buy the people that distribute the oil. I'm going to buy the company that builds oil rigs. I'm going to buy the company that tests the oil, that does all the chemical stuff, whatever. Do you see how that's vertical? Same line, same supply line, but not horizontal. And that is how private equity gets away with some of this. They're also not owners of a lot of the companies, right? So they're dealing in individual acquisitions, and they can't really be charged even though they're major stakeholders rather than owners. But this is part of why we see the massive income inequality and the wealth disparity that we see today, right? The top 10% of Americans right now have 68% of the wealth. That's coming from the St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank, by the way. And it has to do with monopolies. It has to do with the Chicago School of Economics, the Heritage Foundation. You can find that whole series over on Patreon, okay?